Nokia's return to the world of smartphones with its very own lineup of Android phones has been a bit of a seesaw. Last I remember reviewing the Nokia 8.1 back in 2018, which obviously was a very good phone. Obviously, the year 2018 was actually good for Nokia considering we got other good phones like the Nokia 6.1 as well. Now cut to 2019 and we got the .2 series of Nokia phones, which is basically the Nokia 2.2, the 4.2 and the 7.2, which in the Indian context of things was slightly disappointing. Now, the Nokia 5.1 Plus that launched back in 2018, I suppose, should have had an upgrade and it should have been called the 5.2, but Nokia skipped the generation and now we have the Nokia 5.3, which just launched recently in India. And I have been using this phone as my primary device, and I must say that I have a lot of thoughts, not just about the phone, but also about the future of Nokia in India. Stay tuned with me for the full review of the new Nokia 5.3. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever Mr. Phone puts out an awesome new tech video. The Nokia 5.3's design is defined by this circular camera cutout for me. It houses 4 cameras and a flash module in the center that looks a lot like the astonished smiley. We've seen similar cutouts in the OnePlus 70 and the Nokia 9 Pure View. I find it appealing, and it doesn't hurt that the module doesn't extend too far out of the rear. As for the phone, it is made entirely of polycarbonate, which is not necessarily a bad thing, especially considering it is built so well. If you look closely, you can see a patterned texture on the rear. Also, the rear curves gently, making it easier to grip the fairly big phone. And the 8.5mm thickness coupled with the 185g distributed evenly makes it a very comfortable phone to use. Also on the rear is the fingerprint scanner, which is easy to reach and fast to unlock. Plus, face unlock works fast too. The other cool design element that I found particularly fascinating was the notification LED built into the power button. It's a neat touch. As for the tactility, the power button, the volume rocker and the dedicated Google Assistant button offer a fairly nice clicky feel. Yup, you get a dedicated button for Google Assistant, which does come in handy. You also get a headphone jack and a mic on the top, and a Type-C port, another mic and a speaker grill at the bottom. Overall, the design of the Nokia 5.3 is such that it is well put together in typical Nokia fashion. As for the display, the Nokia 5.3 has a large 6.55-inch IPS LCD panel with a 720p resolution and a 60Hz refresh rate. It is an average looking panel with a dot notch. It doesn't get too bright, and I could spot light bleeding around the corners as well. You also don't get HD streaming on Netflix and Prime. Now when checking photos shot from the phone, I found the pixelation to be clearly apparent too. I mean, you can get better displays in this price range, that's for sure. Now Google's very own adaptive brightness setting is also very damn iffy, and it doesn't really work well. I was always using this phone at 100% brightness for the duration of my review, considering the phone could not get too bright. Now the Nokia 5.3 comes with a quad camera stack on the rear. This stack includes a 13MP primary camera, 5MP ultra-wide shooter, 2MP macro camera, and finally a 2MP depth sensor. There's also an 8MP selfie camera. After using it, I can clearly tell that in the quad camera stack, there are 2 cameras too many. And Nokia could have very well benefited by improving the software algorithm instead of bloating the hardware spec sheet. Now let's take a look at the camera samples along with the GCam comparison as well. I captured this first image to showcase the colors, and as you can tell, the stack of books here look far more vibrant in the GCam sample. But the accuracy is almost on par on both. The vibrancy is due to the far better contrast that you get with Google's excellent camera algorithm. Now the 5.3's default algorithm is duller, and don't get fooled into thinking that it is more true to life as a result. Moving on to the next image, you can once again tell that the GCam image has a far better contrast and more accurate colors as well. However, at close crop around the center, the details are on par. But around the corners, you can tell the noise control is far better on the GCam sample. But the main difference is when you look at the dynamic range performance. The GCam port shows you what is actually possible versus what you get by default. Just look at the amount of details retrieved from the shadows. There is a clear difference here. And when it comes to the 5MP ultra wide angle camera or the 2MP macro one, the less said about it the better. Starting with the ultra wide shots, you can see that the samples captured by the ultra wide angle camera are super soft and devoid of any details whatsoever. Plus the lens is not capable of capturing enough light despite it being a bright sunny day. As for the macro, it has soft details and doesn't look very good. You can also shoot videos using both the cameras, and there is a dedicated night mode for the ultra wide camera. I'd say you just avoid those considering these cameras are average even for regular lighting situations. Taking a look at the selfies, you will see that the default camera algorithm brightens up the face. The facial tones are far more pleasing on the GCam sample, but the details and the sharpness are on par. My analysis for selfie portraits is very similar, and when it comes to selfies taken indoors, once again I will go with the GCam one for sure. Nokia could have reduced the face brightening algorithm here. Now with portraits, again the GCam portraits look better. You can take a look at it for yourself. Talking about indoor shots, you can clearly tell that the default algorithm is doing a lot of noise correction at close crop. If you take a look at the top of the curtains, you can clearly tell how the default algorithm glosses over the details, and in GCam you can see the crease lines clearly. In low light shots, you can see how soft the regular camera is compared to GCam. And with the night mode on, GCam just kills the default mode's performance. Now the Nokia 5.3's primary rear camera and of course the front camera are both capable pieces of hardware, but unfortunately let down by slightly inferior algorithm. Now in comparison, the GCam pictures were of course better, and thankfully you get a GCam port out of the box, so that's definitely a good thing. Now it can also shoot 4K videos using the rear camera and 1080p 30fps videos using the front camera, both of which were very average. Now overall, the cameras on the Nokia 5.3 could do with some software tweaks to make it better. The one reason why a lot of folks are going to gravitate towards the Nokia 5.3 is the Android One branding. You get a clean stock Android UI with only Google's apps. Although it has been a while since I've used a phone with stock Android, and I always have a soft spot for it. But you know what, considering the long break, I am slightly underwhelmed, to be honest. The newfangled finesse of custom UIs such as MIUI 12, One UI 2.5 and Oxygen OS have completely spoiled me silly. Stock Android feels a little threadbare now, and there were a couple of things that annoyed me to no end. By default, the scaling is off where apps with long names look cramped in the app drawer. Plus, you can't hide the handlebar at the bottom of the display for navigation, which takes up precious screen estate in many apps, and it looks odd. So the Android 11 update is just around the corner, and you can rest assured that the Nokia 5.3 will definitely get it, considering the brand has promised 2 years of continuous software updates. Now in the budget price category, not many smartphone brands offer that, so that is definitely a good thing for the Nokia 5.3. Also, there's no denying that using an ad-free, bloat-free software on the Nokia 5.3 is completely liberating, and that is possibly the best thing about the phone. The Nokia 5.3 comes with Snapdragon 665 and 4GB/6GB of RAM with 64GB of internal storage with eMMC 5.1 speeds to go along with it. You get the option to add additional storage by adding a memory card to the dedicated triple slot tray. Snapdragon 665 is a fairly decent chip to get your daily tasks done. It was fast and responsive in my daily usage, plus the RAM management wasn't very aggressive either. The benchmarks are on the screen right now for you to see. As for gaming, it does well as SD665 can, but it is no G90T or Snapdragon 720G. You can play PUBG at max settings of balanced and medium or smooth and high, which means you're limited to 30 FPS. And it stayed a constant 30 during my sessions, and the phone didn't heat up either, so that's a good thing. Although I must say COD Mobile was slightly more fun to play, but that's also because COD Mobile has been tuned far better than PUBG to work well even on low-end phones. As for the mono speaker at the bottom, it sounds soft and pretty average. Thankfully, the headphone jack makes up for that loss with good enough fidelity. However, if you're looking at Bluetooth, the Nokia 5.3 supports only the older Bluetooth 4.2 standard. It doesn't mean much in terms of quality of audio, but connections take longer to establish and the stability may not be the best. I used the Nokia 5.3 on an Airtel 4G network for the duration of my review in Delhi NCR, and it was fairly rock solid, no worries really. However, the quality of the earpiece could have been better considering it doesn't sound very loud, so it could have been louder and slightly better. Now the 5.3 has a large 4000 mAh battery which took me nearly 3 hours to charge using the bundled 10-watt charger. The lack of dedicated fast charging is definitely a negative. That said, the battery managed to give me around 6 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time on more than a couple of occasions on moderate usage. It'll easily last you around a day and a half. But we all know by now that a 5000 mAh battery is almost the norm in this price category, and the battery life on the 5.3 is just about par for the course. Now at the time of shooting this review, I don't know the price of the phone, and based on the price that I saw on the box, I'm presuming that the Nokia 5.3 should be priced around the 14,000 to 15,000 price range. Now based on that supposition, the Nokia 5.3 has to stave off some very serious competition in the form of the Poco M2 Pro, the Redmi Note 9 Pro, and the Realme 6/6i. I have no doubt that the Nokia 5.3 sort of pales in comparison to those phones, except for the fact that you get a clean stock Android experience. Now in case Nokia manages to price the phone in between the 10 to 13,000 price category, then I will share my updated thoughts on the pricing in the comment section below. Now that a lot of it would change, a lot of my thoughts would change, considering the fact that even a phone like the Redmi 9 Prime seems like a better deal than the Nokia 5.3. In any case, I don't think that the Nokia 5.3 is going to sway the tide in the favor of Nokia in 2020. What I'm more excited about is the latest news, which said that the Finnish manufacturer has actually gotten an influx of investment from strategic partners, which also included Google and Qualcomm, to improve and further augment their business in India. Now this means that you could obviously get lower cost phones and slightly better value for money as well. Also, a lot of folks are going to be very delighted that all the phones will be made in India. In fact, even the Nokia 5.3 is made entirely in India. That by itself is a selling point, I'm pretty sure. Now, I'm really keeping my fingers crossed, because Nokia is a brand that I've always appreciated and loved for the kind of phones that they've been making for years and years on end. So what did you guys think of my review of the Nokia 5.3? Do let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Ershad from Mr. Phone signing off. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.